I think you should hit the button.
We are hitting the button. The button has been hit, Captain.
Is this 134?
Yes.
134.
Pull up that picture.
Brave enough to.
You guys don't even understand.
Let me see this here.
Gonna check.
What am I looking at here, Dusty? What is this?
Well, this is how I'm holding my computer up under Jenga and books. That's my ring light attached to a.
Oh my goodness,
it's nice.
What
it's a nice looking
paper towel holder.
That gives me anxiety.
This is what I do to make this work. This is my office, bitches. The kitchen table.
Wow, it is a nice looking counter.
So I have a stand for the.
This is episode 134. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I
that's
appreciate
what goes
it,
into this because Ron, I bought a camera so I'd have a better angle, and then I opened it, of course, 15 minutes before the show to plug it in, just to realize that not everybody uses MacBooks. Who knew? Who fucking knew?
Oh yeah.
He's got to get a dongle.
They got a different plug. Why am I all weird? What's going on my screen?
Well,
I told Scott that,
I mean,
that was a problem.
We've been through this before. It doesn't really matter if you're visible or not, Dusty. We've kind of been through this.
No, it's better in the dark. But you keep saying, "Oh, turn a light on." I feel like you're just trying to shine a little more. That's what I just feel
happening. Like, yeah, when your ring light isn't on. Am I like
really fuzzy on your guys' end or just mine?
Yeah, yes. Fuzzy. You were very clear a little while ago, but something in the internet signal is kind of slowed down. Make sure if you're on Wi-Fi, make sure your phone all that stuff is not, because each time you have more devices on your Wi-Fi, it splits the signal.
Little hookers in my house are here.
And they're probably like on the FaceTime and on the YouTube and.
I appreciate that.
They should go to fucking school where they belong.
We got to get you hardwired when we get you to your house. We get you hardwired, and then you won't have that problem.
Yeah, you got to put a podcast room.
You got a lot going on. You got me dongling. You got me hardwiring. Yes, I have an extra room for it because I got 6 bedrooms.
Let's make sure we get this all in. Episode 134. It's just bodybuilding. I'm Big Ron Partlow, and I'm here with Dusty Hanshaw and Scott McNally. Are you packing, Scott?
Sadly, no. It's been a busy morning. The closest gun to me is 3 feet.
How many yards? 3 feet. Okay.
3 feet. Yeah. Okay. Ron, are you packing though? That's the question.
1 yard.
1 yard. You're
Show
1 yard?
Everyone Ron's new identification.
1 yard, a little longer.
Wow.
I can't put that up. I don't want to put his identification up because it has private numbers and stuff on it.
So I received my firearms license. Yeah. So I've got my restricted and non-restricted, so I can buy a rifle or a handgun.
Nice.
So yeah, but I haven't really been able to put much thought into going and actually buying a gun now. So it took so fucking long to get it in the mail.
Like, that was like last summer. You forgot how to shoot since then.
Forgot all the rules. I'm just going to go pointing it at people. Just going to go carrying it without putting it in a lockbox and breaking all the rules. Yeah,
it's in your pocket.
I don't know. I forgot. Yeah, it's in my pocket. Yeah. So anyway, so it's funny. I sent you guys a text. I was like, I got my gun license. And then immediately Scott messages back with like some ultra tech,
dude.
Oh, you should go buy a whatever gun that was. It's the perfectly balanced weapon for you.
No,
Scott
not just for knowledge. You. It's what I want.
That's what he wants.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up a picture so I can show this.
He wants me to go buy his dream gun is essentially what he's telling me.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's called a staccato. And that's what I've been
acceptable.
That's what I've been dreaming of.
It sounds like something a cartel member would carry.
They could. That would be one of the few people that could afford a nice staccato, as a matter of fact. Here's one right here.
Oh, damn.
Well, how much is it?
They're like, for that one, without that optic on it, good three bill.
It sort of looks like a Beretta with an OtterBox on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. They're said to be the flattest.
Well, that's so if you drop it, it's safe.
Right, like show it again and just think of what I'm saying. It looks like a Beretta with an OtterBox.
There we go.
I totally get it.
Yeah,
like all the kind of grip.
That makes perfect sense.
It looks like extra reinforced. Yeah.
Well, how much is that?
So is that a laser scope?
How much is it exactly as seen, Scott?
So I don't know how much that, I think that's a Leopold optic. I'm not sure on the top, but without that optic, we're talking $3,000 just for the gun. Damn. And then another, $600 for the optic.
I'd be the ultimate poser. Can you imagine me showing up at the shooting range with that gun, and then they all realize it's like my first visit.
Yeah.
I'm already like packing one of those. They'd be like, "Oh, one of these fucking guys."
Will someone help me load this?
Yeah.
Where the bullets go?
Yeah, I'm floor popping by accident, just bang, blasting into the floor. Fuck.
Sorry, first time.
That's how you go all in, though. You're just
like, sorry about that. Sorry.
Won't happen again.
Won't happen again.
After today. Today's the last day.
First day.
That's the same thing that happens now with like Harleys, because most people who own new Harleys are just rich guys buying motorcycles that they don't know how to drive.
Yeah.
I've been on runs before and seen guys like fall over going into gravel, and you're just like, driving a $50,000 motorcycle and you have no idea what you're doing.
First ride to
amongst a lot of other
first
people,
ride ever.
Not safe.
Yeah,
I heard a hilarious motorcycle story. My buddy told me he's got a good friend who he rode dirt bikes. He used to race dirt bikes, so he spent a lot of time on bikes. So he's not like totally inept. But when he went to a street bike, he bought like some BMW that has like gyroscopes in it. They have like that top bike. It actually makes it harder to tip. Like it makes it harder to crash it. Like it corrects for you.
Wow.
So like, you go to turn a corner, you go to turn a corner. And if you don't like, and it just sort of, it just leans the bike. Like you don't really have to do anything. You're just riding. It's almost like driving a car. Right.
Huh.
And he bought he's loaded with money. So he bought the most expensive bike. And then he had like a close call in it and he got scared. So he's like, I'm going to sell it. I'm just going to buy like a smaller bike. So he bought like a 500 or something, and he drove it once and he put it away and he's like, holy fuck, I don't know how to ride a bike.
Huh.
That other bike did all I don't know how to, I'm going to die. So he just doesn't ride anymore because he realized that BMW
it's a different thing.
I don't know if it's a BMW. Someone out there will know what I'm talking about. It had like, he said it like, makes it hard to tip the bike, so it corrects you. So he realized when he went to ride a normal street bike that he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. So it's just,
I feel like it would be hard if you do know how to ride a street bike. For it to adjust for you would drive me fucking crazy.
Yeah, maybe that's why he liked it, because he didn't know.
What are you doing?
Maybe he just, because he didn't know. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what bike that is, but someone will know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get a gun.
I've never heard of that. I need to know this too. Anyways.
Laser sights. Someone would shoot for years with nothing but laser sights.
They do have a thing that's coming out now. I should tell you, first of all, I guess people don't like, the people who really shoot, they don't like laser sights. People don't use.
Yeah.
They're looked down. They're frowned upon. But
right.
There's a thing that it's like, it basically, the way it works is like, it's like a video game and you lock onto your target and it won't let you pull the trigger until you're lined up where you need to be. So once you get on your target, I guess it's like it won't fire until you've got the right shot. So you could just sit there and basically like hold your hand on the trigger and just kind of move it around, boom, until you get where you want to be.
Fuck.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not like
the revolution.
It's not like normal technology yet, but
the purists do not like this.
Yeah.
I could see that though. I remember when I played hockey, when Nike came out with like skates and stuff.
Yeah.
If you came to like a camp or something in Nike, I'd fight you immediately. I was like, you're
new and fandangled,
just against the code.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you just see. You're like, oh, your mom bought you new equipment. That's cute.
What about when we get the gene therapy unlocked?
Yeah.
And what happens if training becomes obsolete? How
could
would
happen.
You feel?
I don't need that shit.
And anyone could just look how they want. Just go get some gene therapy for muscle tissue and just 40 pounds up.
Just blow up. Would it really be worth it anymore? Would we?
Right,
to stop
ruin
that.
it. It would ruin it. Could happen in anything. Could happen to anybody. Technology could come in. and take all the, all the fun out of it.
Next thing you know, I'm better flatlander than fucking Ron on day one.
Right. Put those gyroscopes on the bike so you can't tip over. So it's like a pedway. Yeah. It's like doing tricks on a pedway and you can't even fall. Crazy.
Hey,
terrible.
Speaking of gene therapy, did you guys see this picture? Someone just sent it to me today.
Oh yeah, Ramy. You see the side chest as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't see the side chest, but that's incredible, man.
Yeah. Just fucking massive. And plus, we know how big Ramy is, so we know how big that is. Like, we know how big he is relative to space,
Yeah.
So when you see how small his head looks compared to his shoulders, you're like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Because he's a massive dude at that. Like, fuck.
You know what sucks? What sucks for them, though, is because, in my opinion, they still haven't delivered that to the stage. So even I am like, we'll see. You know what I mean?
I agree with you in that way. But I also look at it and go, oh, damn, he looks bigger and pretty fucking lean. So that probably means he'll just be at least a bigger version of the same thing next time, which will probably be hard to beat. So what do you do?
Yeah, my thought was
that's what he needs, is to be bigger for sure.
Yeah, like just bring the most unnecessary extra thing. Just
remember when we had Chad on, he was saying that Ramy didn't have a good off season last year.
Yeah.
So my first thought was like, well, looks like he's having a good off season. That'll be interesting to see what that means, And
I didn't see anything other than he said, hey, sorry, I haven't been on social media for the past 6 months.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he said why. I don't know that much.
I didn't see that either. I just looked at the picture and my jaw fell down. And then that was it.
Okay. Dusty's having a crazy lag, so he's going to hang up and then reconnect with us.
Good call.
Make sure you show that stack of books that his computer was on.
Oh, yeah. We got it. We got it in there.
Because, it's like when you see, like, the background is, like, all, like, amazing and the guy's talking, delivering, and then you cut away and you see he's sitting there in his underwear. Yeah. He doesn't have shoes on. And then everything from the set forward is just, like, beer cans and pizza boxes. And just a disaster, but his background looks good, and he's got like a nice shirt on.
All about the image.
That's what it reminded me of. Much clearer, Dusty.
Yeah, there was talking about. I would speak, and I would see you guys hear it, and then wait for it to finish.
Oh, right.
I was like, okay, that's like a good 3 seconds.
I was just talking about your setup there with your fancy books and your computer stacked up.
Very classy. Yeah. What it reminds me of is that Kevin O'Leary. You ever see when he does like interviews, he has like no pants on or like shorts.
Yeah, that's what I was just
jacket on.
No, I was saying, and then on the other side of the screen, the rest of the room is just pizza boxes and beer cans and just fucking disaster. Just living
only
like
the shit that you can
slob.
see.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we got today, Dusty?
I got a lot of questions. Scott hopefully has some questions off of the past ones. We definitely want to reward the YouTube questions, obviously.
We've got some good YouTube questions this week. We got some good training questions, especially.
Okay.
Harvey,
let's definitely do a YouTube one.
All right.
Fire.
I'm gonna randomly grab whatever I came up with here.
I had a little list here.
All right, Steve-O says, got a question for you.
Is this Steve-O from Jackass?
I don't know. It could be. You think he's watching us?
Of course he is.
Be cool.
He got into lifting as part of his life management.
Recovery from all the dumb shit.
Do you guys find sharply high protein diets favorable for certain types of training? From what I've read, Dante is a very high protein guy, and I wonder if that particularly suits DC. Currently running my second blast even. I've always been partial to Efforting's approach, satisfying macronutrients while not forcing protein over 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight and driving carbs. I've had great success with this in the past, training less frequently. But since starting DC, I felt I started to lose that energy kick quickly, and wonder if the extra nutrients, aminos from all the protein are specifically geared toward this type of training.
I don't really think there'd be any like evidence for that I could like. I'm not going to speak on that as some kind of knowledgeable expert. I don't think there's any reason to believe that. I always went with 1 gram per lean pound is my like minimum. So let's say your stage weight is 200 pounds. You need at least 200 grams of protein. Or I'd do the 1.5, like, 1.5 was like what I ate most of the time. But when calories got super fucking low, maybe my protein might work its way down to like 1 gram per lean pound just to get my calories down. But most of the time I went 1.5 per lean pound. So whatever I thought my stage weight was, I just kind of went 1.5 of that, just ballpark. But I mean, I don't really know what's Dante recommend. Is he 1.5 or is he higher than that?
He's about pushing. I mean, he just definitely has found that.
Does he go 2 grams?
To keep it simple, more is merrier. Yeah, I mean, 1.5, 2, no problem.
Okay.
I think the one area where people get messed up with him is you did mention the per lean pound, and a lot of guys are much fatter than they think they are.
Right. That's why I sort of like, make sure you say that. Because even some people say a gram per pound, and I'm like, oh, well, that's fair. 300-pound guy eating 300 grams of protein,
Yeah, because then you figure that's about right when you factor in what his body fat is. That's still less than 1.5, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, all training, if you're trying to bodybuild, all we're trying to do is put on muscle mass. So there's nothing specifically different about DC training that makes it that way. I think he's probably reading into the change in training and how his body's feeling to that because he's maximizing effort for every set. I don't know what he was doing before, but chances are if he was doing a higher volume, he wasn't pushing each set as far, and that's why he has that thought that it's different for DC training.
Right.
Because if you were training like Jordan or anyone else who's doing a progressive overload style, even if it's not DC, you're going to be maximizing each set because there's just not that many. But at the end of the day, I think where we get a little bit beat up with both training, eating, all of the above is the true answer to like the secret to training is, as Chris Aceto put so eloquently to me once, was train fucking hard. If you do that, whatever style of training you're doing is going to be fine. And then you're going to eat to support the muscle mass, no matter what that is. So I think at the end of the day, you should just play with what works for you. I do really high protein because 10 ounces per meal is normal of cooked food for me, which a lot of people, I don't think they even realize what that is. I mean, like 10 ounces of chicken is upwards of 70 grams of protein if it's cooked.
Yeah, I always say like most meat is about 7 grams per cooked ounce.
Yeah. So you figure when you're doing that 6 times a day, simple math, that's a shit ton of protein.
That's a lot.
But I also, with that, just like Ron was saying, at the end of the day, it still comes back to calories. And Chris would have me doing stuff like that, or even one meal. I was doing 16 ounces of salmon for my last meal every night, but I was also having a cup of oatmeal in the morning, and that was it for carbs.
Okay.
For weeks on it.
Sometimes when the carbs get real low, the protein gets higher. But I would say it has a lot to do with, I've had people say, oh, your protein's low. Because I'd be like 300 pounds eating 300 grams of protein. But that was off season when my carbs were high.
Yeah.
Because, carbs and fats are protein sparing. So so people need to remember that as well. So
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fatter you are, the less you need to eat.
There it is.
There's people that have no abs that are all worried about their intake of like things. It's like, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
May I suggest moving more? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I had a couple more. This one was this is not from Facebook. This is from Everest from Patreon. And he wanted to ask you guys, so VMO, that's the teardrop muscle, right?
Right.
He says, what are your favorite exercises to bring up the VMO specifically? I've been implementing single leg presses and single leg extensions to try to bring them up. What's your thoughts?
So my understanding has, the way I've thought of the teardrop muscle is that it doesn't have, like, it's hard to stretch. Like, it doesn't, your quad that crosses your hip, your rectus femoris, is easy to stretch because you got your hip as well, right? Drive your hip into it. But the other quads are actually kind of hard, difficult to stretch. So one of the things about training quads is that you have to find a stretch load. So that means you have to go deep.
Yep.
So there's been I think enough evidence for me to like go, oh, that seems reasonable, that vastus medialis activation is about depth more than it is about anything with like your feet. And generally for quad stimulation in general, depth is full range of motion is what matters the most. So that's what I think people should focus on. Now, it also engages a lot right at the end of the lockout. So that's where I think leg extensions come into play, because nothing else really engages your quad at the lockout like a leg extension. It's like the only thing. So that's why I think people are like, oh, these work my teardrops, because the teardrop kind of does the most work coming out of a deep squat. And then it's almost passive for like 2/3 of the range of motion. It doesn't even really do much. And then it has that extra kick at the lockout. So I think depth, and then, you have to get those squeezes on the leg extension. But that's just generally how I think about quads. Foot position matters less than depth. But when I say foot position, I mean like this way. But like,
he's not talking about under you. Yeah, I was going to say, clear that up, because the closer your feet are to underneath you, that's why you see a lot of bodybuilders doing Smith squats now, is because you can bring your feet under you by still keeping your heels on the ground. And what that's going to end up with is a better stretch. I mean, at the end of that, that's really what you're getting back to, is that stretch.
They're more of a load in the stretch. Yeah. There's a lot of torque coming out of the bottom on that quad. So feet up and down matters a lot more than feet like this.
Yeah. Did you do that when you were younger? I had my feet all, like, I was doing toes together, toes out, 5 feet. Like, I was doing all this shit and none of it fucking mattered.
Yeah. I can see the argument when people say put your feet closer for more quads. The reason that could be technically argued is when your feet are narrower than shoulder width, your glutes do a lot less work.
And your adductors.
Yeah, and your adductors, right? So, because your glutes generally want to turn your leg out, right? So when you go narrower than shoulder width, they aren't doing nearly as much. So when you're wider than shoulder width, they are doing more in a leg press, but your quads are, you just put another plate on, right? Like everything's corrected with load. So that's another thing I think is important. People like, oh, well, if you put your feet here, it works less quad and more glute. And well, not if you throw another plate on. Other quads are still working as hard as they can. Everything's working as hard as it can, So everything is relative to load. If you move your hands and it makes the exercise easier, then you can just put more weight on, and now it's just as hard as it was before. There's also that.
Little detail.
All right. Got one more training one for you guys. This is back from YouTube. Another Steven. He's Steven Chambers. He says, for the next show, what is the best way of building your calves? Would it be a way of training them 2 days a week? I'm currently bringing my legs up, so my routine is push, legs, rest, pull, legs, rest, rest. Would you implement calf work at the end of your session or at the beginning? Thanks for the help.
Well, I do have something to say on this, because I don't have any calf genetics, and I was able to build my calves up to a point at one point when I had people telling me, oh, you've really brought your calves up. And so even though I never had great calves, the fact that people noticed that they grew over the years, and I even had someone who came to my very last show actually said, you know, your calves are way bigger at the end of your career than they were when you were like starting at nationals. And I was like, oh, that's good to hear, because they fucking plagued me my whole life. So, and then I fucking tore one and have nerve damage in the other. So now they will suck again. So anyways, long story. So the thing about calves is my calves, they were the thing that didn't do much when I trained them the way, because you know how Dorian trained his calves? He just, you know, the old split back in calves, right? So that's what I did for years, and my calves didn't grow on that. My calves were one of those things where I had to like deviate from the way I trained everything else. And I trained my calves up to 3 times a week. At one point I trained them 3 times a week for several years straight. And I think that's when they were at their biggest. And they were also really vascular and like veiny, but not like in the front, just in the muscle part. So it was like cool, but they grew, and I trained them, 3 times a week, and probably did, between 4 and 8 sets each time I trained them. And the sets were, and then I varied it a lot. So like I might do 4 sets of 20 to failure, like a really bad 20, 25 rep burn failure. Yeah. Might do 4 sets of that on one day. And then 2 days later, I'd do some heavy standing where I'd do like 8 to 12 reps. And I might do, 4 sets of that, maybe 2 sets seated. And then a couple of days later, I'd just do 4 sets of donkeys or something. But I would always train them super hard, and I would just vary it a lot. And they grew doing that for sure. And I wished I would have done that like much earlier. Because I was like, fuck.
That one you had to learn over time.
Yeah. They say any muscle will grow if you literally give it enough. Like, obviously you have to train it hard. And then if that doesn't work, you have to just train it hard more. Right. Eventually, if you just keep loading something, it has to budge, So
yeah, that's the thing people have to remember. It's growth is adaptation.
Yeah. So and your genetics dictate how much load is, like how much is required to make it grow. Some people can just walk around and their calves blow up. They're like, oh, I was fat as a kid. I was fat as a kid, and now I have 21-inch calves that have veins all over them.
That was the one thing that I discovered on accident, and it's worked for a lot of people, is I had an ankle mobility issue. So Jason, my PT, was like, you need to stretch your calves every day. And he's like, I think you should do it under a load. So I would go in before every workout, and I just get on like, the seated leg press machine where you sit up and it's like it's right in front of you.
Yeah.
And I would just
fitness one.
Yeah. I would just put one foot up there and hold for a minute, then switch to the other leg. I'd do that back and forth. So 2 minutes on each single with like a slight bend in my knee. And then I would put the stack on it and put both feet up and just lock my knees and let it sit. And I was doing that every day for a while. And, a guy mentioned to me, he's like, man, your calves are growing. And I kind of shrugged it off, like, whatever. My calves suck. After like literally the 9th person was like, oh, you're really putting some size on your calves. And it was the only change. I was like, holy shit, they were tight. So I started putting it on clients' programs. And anyone who actually took the time to do that every day saw improvement. So I think a lot of it too is just that muscle is just so tight from being used all the time. Yeah. And think about it, like when you walk into the gym, you're getting ready for legs, you stretch your, like back in the day when we didn't know better about stretching, you would stretch your hams, you would stretch your quads. You might give your calf a little touch, but you weren't like annihilating them because you really have to be under a load to do that. That was a drastic change for me. So I think if you guys want to spend the time, it's 6 minutes additional to every time you walk into the gym. And I could pretty much guarantee your calves will grow.
I love the idea too. I was always big on stretching them when they were maximally pumped, like loaded. Like I would go like hold a weight and like stand there and just fucking sit on them for like a minute. But when they were, at the end of the workout, when they were just blown up, because I was just trying to stretch them,
That's just hell.
It was like without using synthol, trying to like stretch the fascia, they used to talk about that all the time, So
I would have put synthol on my calves, but I tried to hit my calf with a regular shot once and it hurt so bad I couldn't walk for like a week.
Oh God.
I don't know how guys do that. One shot, I put like a half cc in my calf and literally was gimping for like a full week.
That's one thing I've never tried because I've heard that.
Fuck it.
No, it's not worth it. Don't ever shoot your calves ever.
Oh, fucking terrible.
By the way, anybody who wants to take part in the show, comment on this episode. We'd be happy to. I'll do my best to gather these questions up, and I'll bring them to the guys for the next one. So comment below. Plus, all the comments, all that stuff, it helps to boost us in the algorithm. So
it does. And so here's a good time to say what I'm supposed to say at the beginning, which is the like, share, subscribe, comment,
ring the bell.
There you go. So make sure you do that for us every time. I got a few things on my list here. Dusty, did you get your stuff?
My hoodie.
Yes.
Yes, I got a hoodie. Yes, I got it. Matches your shirt or your hat you're wearing right now. And it's
you got the
biggest.
hat.
Well, I already had the hats. I told you that a long time ago. I have the hats. You sent the hoodie alone because you brought me. Remember, they were at us. We didn't have it.
Yes, okay.
And I want to say this real quick to anybody who likes a giant hoodie. Order them from Ron. That is the biggest 4X hoodie in the history of the world.
Nice.
I'm telling you, I literally pulled it out and I was like, is this a 5? Like, I just immediately thought it was a 5X because it's so big. Yeah. That is the greatest hoodie of all time.
That's cool.
You like it?
Oh, yeah, because I like hoodies. I don't understand people, and I guess I'm just old, but like this whole tight hoodie thing.
Yeah.
No. I want to be a sloppy fucking mess, comfortable. Oh my God. Yeah. It's the only downside is that the moment that I got the hoodie, it decided to become 80 degrees here.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, Ron's fucking with me. Like 2 weeks ago, I could have worn this. I've literally have not gotten to wear it yet other than just put it on. I'm like, I washed it so I could get rid of the fuzz when it was time.
Yeah,
I'm going to Utah this weekend. So I'm getting my chance. It's supposed to be fucking freezing there this week.
Okay. I was so busy, I forgot to ask you. Okay, so Dusty got his hoodie.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and I thought you guys would get a kick out of this. One of our female listener number. I'll call 36. Her female list. Well, actually, just to give her credit, I'll call her female listener number 1.
Whoa!
But because
it's a lot of credit.
That's a lot of credit, but that's just because of what she said. Said she listens to our show when she's in the tub.
Okay.
She's definitely number 1. Whoever she is. Are there candles? Anyways.
Hey, if there's candles, Dusty.
If it's a dark room and there's candles and she's listening to Ron's buttery voice. Because, Ron's got that smooth voice. Right? And she's like, just enjoying that tub.
Yeah. I always wanted to be a DJ on a radio station just for a night, just so I could play all of my favorite B-sides that nobody's ever heard of and no one knows, and then just drive them all crazy. So it depends. It depends if it's if you're in the tub and all the lights are on and it's bright versus the candles.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I would have asked her immediately, are there candles involved in this? Asking for myself.
I feel slow on that one, Dusty.
It's okay. Your mind is in a better place than mine.
Okay. What do you have any? Let's go to Dusty for something. You got something for us, Dusty?
I have tons. Okay. Well, this is a good one. I've got some good ones. Would you rather, I got to make sure I got these in the right order. Okay. Would you rather sandpaper the asshole of an alligator in a phone booth or get drug naked over a cactus with your mouth over the tailpipe of a greyhound?
Ooh. Huh.
That's intense.
Neither? Can I pick neither?
And she means it. I'm kidding. It's not a girl. Sorry.
I think if I'm in a phone booth with an alligator, it's a relatively small alligator.
Good. Yeah, one of those little ones, like the little 2-footers.
Like almost maybe. A caiman.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to think I could kind of pin it against the wall and get control of its jaw, and then it would be really just sort of an irritation at that point.
Yeah.
You might have a better chance.
If it was a big one, there's no room. Because I'm assuming this is one strong ass,
yeah.
Because obviously if I'm in a phone booth and it's not being broken by me and an alligator, I almost want the big one because he's already this high. Like he can't bend his neck to get me.
He's sort of trapped. You just kind of like spend time with him.
They have balls?
Yeah, they got those.
Yeah, they
like
do, but
fingers.
the arms are it's a little raptor arms, right? Like I don't know what that's gonna do. Yeah, you can just grab them and just bend them the wrong way. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I'm going in with him for sure. I'm with you.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm visualizing like one of those European phone booths. By the way, the red one. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know why. They don't have phone booths anymore, so that's what I think of.
This is why you guys are the pros, because you figured this out. This is it.
Yeah, I'd figure it out.
Well, okay. Plus, you got to remember, like, you got to remove the fucking cactus thing.
No.
Yeah, no.
It's a lot.
No, I got a chance.
If the alligator does get me, it's death. It's over, and that's good. I don't want to be dealing with that. They hook in you once you get a cactus.
Yeah.
It's not good. No. Sorry. Good question, though. Good, important stuff that you need to know. Important stuff. Oh, here's an important one for Ron. Ron, what's your favorite color of Chucks?
Oh.
You don't even have any laceless ones yet, do you?
No.
I should buy you some. They're great.
You know, I always am on the lookout for, I'm going to even show them. I don't just want to say it because people might not really get it. But when I was a kid, I had a pair of turquoise Chucks.
Really?
Do you remember the turquoise color?
I do. No one on this show is as old as us, but I remember them.
It's I don't want to say mint, but
it's kind of a cross between mint and turquoise.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's more blue than mint. Like mint is a green and turquoise is more of a blue, but it's hard to also too. Not all the photos are.
Have you found them? Have you found a pair in like recent years?
No, like I always look at what colors. They just haven't made that color in a long time. Like I don't know if they've done some small batches or whatever, but back in like the 80s, turquoise was one of their like it was like red, black, white, turquoise. Like they made them all the time. Like you saw them all the time. Like I remember they were like a common color to see back in the 80s. And I haven't seen like new turquoise Chucks for a long time, but I'm always on the lookout.
Let me ask you this, Ron. So I've also seen Chucks that have the white or the black rubber instead of the white rubber.
They got those.
What do you think about the black rubber versus the white rubber?
Well, I like the white rubber a lot more with everything else, but I've got a pair of black on blacks as well. Okay. And I get compliments on them. In fact, when I first started wearing them, a couple of guys even said to me, and I had to like ask them, like, what does that even mean? But I had two people. They like look down and they see I got black on black Chucks, and they go, "Huh, I wouldn't have figured you a black Chuck guy, black on black Chuck guy." And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what the fuck does that mean? And then another dude
code goes, I don't know about this.
Yeah, and then someone else, they saw I had black. They're like, "Oh, you got the all black Chucks, huh? Interesting."
I didn't know that about you.
I didn't know that about you.
Did they unfollow you on Instagram that night?
Yeah.
No, but it was just fucking comical to me that two people mentioned it. I always thought that all black Chucks were a metalhead thing.
Okay.
That's where I saw them as. Yeah. I saw them as like the kids that had like the Metallica patches on their jean jackets and the mullets and stuff. They were like the black on black Chuck guys. That's what it was when I was that's how I remember it. Yeah. And I remember when I worked in the bar industry, a lot of like the guys I knew that were in bands, like metal bands and stuff, would wear black Chucks. So I don't know. That's what I see.
Do you have high tops? Just because you showed me a high top, but I thought you were a pure low top. Do you do both?
I have two pairs of those. They're not the normal Chucks. They're the Chucks that have like the ankle, the thicker, they're high top that has like the pad around the ankle. Yeah. I have two of those pairs because I like to ride in those because they have like an ankle pad on them essentially.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What about you?
Oh, red. It's without question. The red with the white. They're just traditional. Yeah. That's like my call sign. That's my Maverick. You know what I mean? That's it. Like when we did the video that I was coming back to Mutant, I told them the moment you see the shoe, they'll know it's me.
Right.
And that was the point of it, was to release it. And then they released a video without showing the shoe without showing it was me. And I'm like, you already told the answer. And then that's one thing I have to say. I love Mutant, but they love to drag out announcements to where everyone knows and they don't care by the time they get the announcement.
Yeah.
Right, hit him in the face in one, just boom, there it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's hard to tease you, Dusty.
Yeah, I want to, like I always say, like, I don't need labor pains. Give me the baby. Let's do this. Let's move forward. Okay,
I said that to
this is a good one.
Other day. I used your line the other day, Dusty. I said to one of my employees, I said, I don't need the labor pains. Just give me the baby. And they just cracked up laughing. And just turned and like walked away from me just laughing.
Like, I still need the answer. Okay.
No, they loved it. That was actually, they know who you are too. So I said, oh, that's a Dusty thing. And they were just laughing.
All right, so here's one for you guys, but this one might be a little hard. I sometimes I get blindsided by a good question. All-time favorite memory that bodybuilding has brought you?
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that's a big
all-time favorite memory that bodybuilding.
Think about all of them. And Scott, you're not allowed to use marrying someone that you met on a podcast.
Oh, that would have been a good one. I didn't even think of that. I was thinking of like bodybuilding,
I just saved you. Don't.
All right.
Let's edit out the part where you said you didn't think about that before.
Yeah, I was thinking about like the meathead side, of like the real, like actual bodybuilding.
That's the side we need. That's what I'm looking for from you.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I had to put that in there.
Yeah, so you're not looking for some deep consequences of your choices.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, okay. You're looking for like an actual snapshot.
Okay, so I have a million of these, so it's really hard to say the favorite. But I'm going to say the one that like blew my mind was training in Temple Gym, training back consistently. I just did Dorian's routine, of course, in his gym, and he needed the same piece I was on twice. And I will never forget when Dorian Yates said, "Do you want to just train?"
Oh.
And I felt like it was a trick fucking question. I was like,
well, hey,
do I want to train with Dorian Yates in his gym doing his routine?
Yeah, that's cool.
I think I would like to do that.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. So that, and the workout was obviously great, but just that little moment, because I remember my brain was like, did this just happen? Did Dorian Yates just ask me?
Yeah.
I mean, he could have just told me to fuck off, like get out of their way. There's just my shed. I'm like, okay. Yeah, and it was fun, and he was so, I've told people this a million times, he was so intense, and we weren't training together. We were using the same shit, but he was pushing me during my sets.
Yeah.
And I realized that
just
at that point, person. I was known to be like this hardcore, intense, whatever. I was a bitch. This dude retired for like decades, and I was like, holy fuck, you could feel energy coming off of him. I probably got 5 extra reps on everything just because he was standing there. I mean, I really did. I walked out there and I was like, that's when I literally said there are levels to intensity.
Yeah.
And I got a long way to go. You know,
I heard stories about how, Dorian himself said, and I used to do it all the time too when I was younger because I was vibrating, but he used to say he would like pace back and forth between sets, like just thinking about the set, right? And he paced back and forth, and he was so full of like intensity that he wasn't the type of guy that would like stand still. He would like always be pacing. And I've heard lots of stories about how just this energy just came off of him all the time. Like it was like
I couldn't imagine when he was
walk close to him, and you were just like,
yeah,
just so yeah.
Because I mean, literally, I think by the time that happened, I think Ramy was done winning the Olympia. Like, so
yeah, so Dorian was just having a removed,
and he's just training. I was like, so what was he like then? Like, it had to have just been. I have to assume he's the most intense bodybuilder ever, just because of that. Because I've trained with a lot of guys, and it didn't. I mean, Branch is a fucking beast, but it didn't feel like that. And I trained with Branch a few times.
No kidding. I didn't know you trained with Branch a few times. That's cool.
I've trained with everybody. Like, I've trained with a lot of people, and even the most serious guys, there's always at least been one like moment where you have a bit of a laugh,
Yeah.
But I just don't feel like I'd have a laugh with Dorian.
Dorian doesn't laugh. You need my keys.
There's no having a laugh.
Yeah, it'd be funny.
When you train
So
Dorian.
it's funny, you know, that's a difficult question. What's your favorite moment that bodybuilding has brought you? Because, you know, you think of like all the shows you've been to and all the people you've helped and all the clients you've had and all the trips you've been on and all the workout partners you've had. It's just so hard to pick a moment, you know. But, you know, Dusty reminded me, I still remember going to Temple Gym the first time in, I believe it was 2013 with, you know, the Mutant crew. And that was when I saw Dusty and Jose there. And I went in with Dino and we trained chest. Me and a couple of the Mutant guys did a chest workout. And Dorian was there training a guy. So Dorian was like in the background, like telling a guy like 2 more reps, you know, like doing his thing in his, you know, Ramy accent, right? And I just remember the gym was just such a shithole. And it was, but it was just
black
beautiful.
mold.
Like it was just the most beautiful shithole I've ever been to in my life. And all the pictures on the walls. And I just remember being overwhelmed with a sense of like shut up. Just like complainers and whiners and bitchers. And I don't have the best leg press. And oh, the gym's too, my gym is cold. And I'm like, Jesus, like all that really matters is like, you look at all the stuff that was hanging on the wall in there, like all those plaques and Olympia trophies and all the shit that was on the wall. And you look around at that gym and you're just like, it was just the craziest thing, you know, like you just the contrast of like the beautiful hardware that was from being the best in the world hanging on like the wall that had like black mold on it,
literally,
and condensation literally running down the wall in streaks and dripping off the mirrors onto the ground, sweat condensation, like just from people being hotboxed. And, you know, Guns N' Roses just blasting, you know, and, you know, Dorian yelling at a guy to do 2 more reps. And you're just like, Jesus, fuck, like this is fun. Yeah. And I get to do this and get paid to do it. And my trip's paid for, and it doesn't cost me anything. And like the cab ride here was paid for. And I just remember just feeling like, this is so awesome. Who gets to do this, you know?
Yeah.
So
do you remember, so have you been there, Scott?
No, I haven't.
So you literally have to walk down an alleyway.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Which has no sign.
Yeah.
And then there's a sign at the end of the alley that shows you where to go behind like garbage cans and stuff. Well, we missed it the first time I went.
Okay.
And I walked down to where I'll call it like the city center area is. There's like a Starbucks and all that shit. And I'm walking, and it was very obvious. I'm like looking around, and a guy literally yelled at me. He's like, "Dusty, come here." And he walked me back up and down the alleyway. And I remember as we rounded the corner, you turn left down the alley to get by all the garbage, literally garbage coming out of the top of these garbage cans.
Dumpsters.
You could hear screams coming up from the basement of the gym, and I was like, "So this is heaven. This is what it is." Like I knew right then and there. I was like, "This is going to be amazing." Like,
yeah. And the alley that it's in is so. I actually knew because I remember hearing so many stories about going that you look for an alley, but the alley is called Temple Street.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a little sign that says Temple Street, but it's like a fucking alley, like one car basically or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you take that and you're walking down it, and it's like, it feels like the road you're on is like 200 years old. It's a cobblestone alley, and the cobblestones are like super uneven. Like it's a rough alley. Like it's really funny. It's super old. And then you go around the back of the building and all the dumpsters, and there's fucking like balloons on the ground.
I've heard that. Like syringe caps and stuff.
Syringes, and it's a rough area, man. You know, it's a rough area, that's for sure. And the grease. So like there's like restaurants and pubs around there, right?
Yeah.
So those dumpsters have like fucking grease dumps in them and stuff. So it stinks like French fry grease and rotten food.
Oh God.
And that smell sometimes goes down the stairs into the gym. So like sometimes down in the gym, I guess it smells like fryer grease.
Yep. Yeah, so I agree with you, Ron. Like that was my wake up too, was going there and realizing like this was the best in the world at the, one of the best of all time did it here, you know, and it does make you realize like, man, you are a bitch.
And then it was just ultra cool. It was just like ultra cool because I had already met Dorian enough times that I had like a, hey, how's it going relationship with him.
Yeah.
And then plus we had Dino with us, and Dino's like longtime good friends with him. So that like, so we're having conversations afterwards. Like we're standing around talking, taking pictures with him and Lewis and like chatting. And then Dorian hands me a marker and goes, sign my wall. And I was like, holy fuck, this is pretty cool. Like, so I got up and I signed the wall, trained like hell, Ron Partlow.
That's so cool.
I wasn't a pro yet, so I didn't put my IFBB pro, right?
Yeah.
But it was just funny. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Good on. Look at Dusty bringing the big questions.
That was a solid one. I like that. And you guys both kind of had like the same answer. You realize that?
Yeah, really weird.
Yeah.
Well, that was
Dusty's answer. Just cleared. It
sprung the memory
for me.
Yeah,
it sprung the memory.
Thank you for tuning in to another podcast here at Think Big Bodybuilding Media. If we've provided value to you today, then please consider contributing to our show. You can help support the show through Patreon. Every $5 helps to pay for the software and the hardware and everything else that goes into making a podcast. You can also contribute by using our code at True Nutrition. True Nutrition has been our title sponsor for several years now. I'm super grateful for them. And I've believed in True Nutrition supplements long before they sponsored our programming. You could use our code THINK for health supplements and performance supplements. Feel free to hit me up if you have any questions. And if you're in Canada, check out supplementsource.ca. They have free shipping over $99, huge discounts on overstocked, short-dated, and label-changed products. Plus, they have all your normal supplements too. Thank you guys for listening to the commercial. I hope you're having a great day and that your bodybuilding is going well. Let's get back to the show.
Oh, this is funny. Battle of intensity. Who's winning, Tom Platz or Dorian Yates? And I've trained with both of them.
You trained with Tom?
Yeah, because he used to live in Scottsdale.
You're no kidding. Okay, after this, you got to tell me about that. But I gotta hear about that later.
Hold up.
Yeah.
I've had a very lucky bodybuilding life. That's for sure.
I don't know. So I think. I'd say it's one of those philosophical questions that could never be brought to an absolution. You know what I mean? But just for argument's sake, I'm going to say that Dorian was a smarter bodybuilder than Tom.
Okay,
I think Tom was more reckless.
Huh.
Right. I mean, we've all seen him dive bomb the 500-pound squats, right?
Yeah. Or those hacks where he's like all out.
Yeah, those hacks.
Yeah.
He trained riskier.
Yeah.
And I think there's a certain element of intensity that comes from risk. So I would say Dorian's more of a calculated serial killer in the gym, and Tom was more of a kamikaze. Right?
That's a nice analogy.
A calculated serial killer.
Yeah, Dorian's a serial killer, and Tom Platz is a kamikaze who's taking everyone out, and he doesn't care if he dies. But Dorian wants to make it through the workout so he can win the Olympia, right? I don't know. That's my answer.
That's a great answer, actually.
Before we move on, Dusty, I got to hear about this. So set this up for me. How long ago was this? What did you guys train? And I want to hear about it.
2000. I don't think I was a pro yet. So 11, 12 in there. He lived there. And we didn't train together. He trained me.
Okay.
And realistically, it was fun. But it's a different, I guess to answer the question in mix, if I could pay Tom Platz or Dorian Yates to train me, it would be Dorian every single time, because I'm not a like, I grunt during sets, but I'm not a scream at me guy.
Yeah.
So
okay.
like, I don't get anything out. Like when someone's yelling at me, I almost want to laugh. Like it's why I would be like, I could have never done military. Like you screamed at me, I'd probably laugh at you.
Yeah.
And then be in trouble. So he would like try really hard to like amp you up. And I'm like, I'm already there.
Yeah.
So that didn't really work for me. I enjoyed it. It was an intense workout. And he definitely, I think kind of mirroring what Ron just said, his idea of training was just fuck him up. Like, okay, if that doesn't seem to be working now, add a drop set. Now we do lunges. It was almost like how I would consider, and I don't mean this as a disrespect to him, but it was just finding a way to hurt yourself. I don't mean literally, but hurt the muscle.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, like you were saying, Ron, as far as knowledge, you do want to push it to a point. But it's like if you're a new trainer and you say, I fucked up my client so bad they couldn't walk. I'd be like, well, then you're not a good trainer.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you don't need to do that. But it was fun, like I said, because I wanted to see like how was it. And he definitely is who he put out in the videos back in the day.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? So like you'd be doing extensions and you're not even really getting the reps anymore. And he's pulling them up for you and letting them go. And, you know, so it was fun. It was definitely fun. But I think that I could have been, I think I walked out of a workout where I was training next to Dorian. I can't even say with him, but he was guiding me, and I was a better bodybuilder after that day for sure.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel the same way after the other. I was just like, that was hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't feel like I learned something. Like I really did feel like, you know, and Ron and I have talked about this many times, intensity is something that grows over time. And I think I had kind of been as intense as anyone I trained with for a long time and almost kind of felt like I was at the top of the mountain and then quickly realized that I was at the top of a hill. And there was a fucking mountain in front of me.
I think one of the things that I've had to deal with a lot of clients, like certain clients, especially younger ones, is, you know, if I've put someone through a workout, like let's say, you know, people I actually trained in the gym, I'd have a lot of guys say like, oh, I feel like I need to do more sets, you know, that whole thing that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Right. And I think some of them are expecting you to try to do that to them. Like they expect that. And then when you just put them through like a smart workout, that's where the sets are tight and the form is perfect. And there's all these other things that come before weight. And then, you know, the sets are taken to the brink of failure with a forced rep, and then you end the set and you make sure they have all good sets and it's a great workout. And they're like, I'm not like, you know, vomiting my guts out. I thought I'd be puking by training with you. And I'm like, well, if you want to just die, just do a Navy SEAL workout.
Right.
Like, that's the hardest fucking workout. They literally try to break humans with them.
Yeah.
They literally start with 100 aggro dudes that actually want to be Marines, and they narrow it down to like 8 just by trying to kill them. So if you want the hardest workouts, just do Navy SEAL shit all the time. But the point isn't, like Dusty said, just to scream in your face until you like throw 20 sloppy reps up to make me happy. That's not the point.
Yeah.
So some people kind of think, they're like, oh, well, you know, should we do some more sets? And I'm like, no, like, you build on this, like make these sets progressive and be consistent and train this hard every single time.
Yeah.
And that's how you get big. It's not by me just killing you today. And then your next workout, you just go back to what you were doing without having learned anything. And then in a month, I put you through another chest workout and I just kill you again. And then you just go back to what you were doing before.
Yeah.
Like, that's what happens when people do that.
That's
They're
what
like,
I remember. That reminds me, I heard Fuad say this. This is a couple years ago, like when he first started his podcast. He was like, I'll get people that want to train with me, and then they'll like come in all ready to go, and they took like 2.5 scoops of pre-workout, and they get up and they train really hard and they just get destroyed. And then I'm like, yeah, but you got to be able to train hard every workout. It's not just that like one time you're training with me, you know?
Yeah. That's what they're miss. It's like, take what I showed you today and add 30 pounds to all the weights.
Yeah.
For next year.
Over time.
And you will be bigger. Yeah. But me just putting you through a 25 drop set chest workout just so you're You can just say just so you're fucking sore and say, oh man, the chest workout was so brutal. Not what it's about. Because then next week, you're not going to do the same workout again anyways. So
I like that.
Yeah. I think you should advance too. I mean, I could say this, which is nice, is when you've trained with a lot of really good guys, I've learned a lot of stuff from a lot of guys, even at the highest level. I mean, sometimes Ron, years into training together, he would toss something in and I'm like, oh, fuck, I've never done that. And it's not some crazy thing. It's just a slight finish to a different movement. And you're like, oh, okay, nice. You know what I mean? And that's what Ron was saying is like, you got to take something with you that you can move forward with if you really had a good workout from someone. Because if I go into a workout and he just annihilates me and I can't move forward with it, it was of no value other than maybe if you want to call that fun. But, I feel like you should definitely walk out and be like, I'm a better bodybuilder today than I was 2 hours ago.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah.
So here's a good one. Actually, Turner's wife sent me some golds ones, so I thought you guys would like these. It says, work ethic is taught. It's learned. What factors in your life contribute to your work ethic?
Oh, very good question, and I agree. I think that my mom and dad were both great examples of understanding that there were jobs that were theirs and nobody else was going to do them, and they had to be done. And then me as a kid seeing that those things were always done, which meant they were always doing their jobs.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? My mom didn't ever not cook dinner. Ever.
Right.
That was her fucking job.
Right.
My dad didn't ever not bring home the bacon.
Right.
That was his fucking job. That there'd be 2,000 acres of grain in the field ready to be harvested, and we'd get like a sudden weather warning that it was going to snow 2 feet. And my dad would be like, well, I guess we have to get this whole crop off in the next 10 days.
Right.
So it's going to be like 20-hour shifts. I'm going to have to get 3 guys out here and 2 combines running and 2 grain trucks. And we're going to have to work all through the night and the day. And then my mom would go, okay, well, I guess I'm setting the alarm to get up at midnight to make a pot of coffee and drive it out to the field to give you guys coffee and food at 1 a.m. And then I'm going to have breakfast ready at 6. And it's going to be round the clock cooking and working.
You were lucky to learn that. A lot of people don't get that opportunity.
For sure. But I think it does shape, exactly what she said, because when I hear that, and I mean, just knowing Ron between bodybuilding, business, sponsorship, that is how everything is. There's things that have to be done and they just get done.
Yeah.
And I do think that in the world, that's not common anymore. It's very normal to see. I mean, I even see it on Instagram with people. They're like, oh, hey, sorry guys, I didn't do my training, my clients this week. I'll get you next week. And I'm like, what? Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? There's a lot of just like good enough now,
right.
versus that. And I do think that that's a taught thing. What about you, Scott? Because I mean, I always laugh with Scott because he always downplays the fact that he's created an entire business doing exactly what he wants to do, and he's like, I just do podcasts like it's some fucking
man. I'm fucking lucky. I'm lucky is what it comes down to. But I put a lot into it, and I can relate to what Ron said. I was raised in a family business, and so it was my grandpa's business. I don't think I ever told you guys this, but my grandpa started a business. He wanted to open a McDonald's, and they wouldn't let him put it where he wanted to put it. This is like back in the 50s, 60s, 60s, whatever. And so he started this sandwich company, and he made sandwiches in this little garage, and then he started delivering them to like high schools and party stores, and it grew. So my dad and 2 uncles took it over, and they all ran it, and eventually they sold out to just my dad. And so my dad and my mom ran this. They had a production line with like 30, 40 people inside, 3 big walk-in coolers and freezers, a fleet of those Isuzu box trucks, and they would drive around And so it was two businesses, production business and a delivery business. And they drive around and they take those sandwiches to we had all the 7-Elevens in Metro Detroit and all the mobile oils. And we had a bunch of high schools and stuff like that. So I grew up in that business and working for my parents. And it was the same kind of thing. I remember New Year's Eve when I was a teenager, wanting to go out and probably get in trouble. But one of our walk-in coolers broke. And that means what do you do? There's no one else to do this. Nobody else is coming to do it. Me and my dad, my mom, and my sister, and a couple other people from the business are at midnight moving these boxes of burger patties from one cooler to another. And it's, it's that attitude of we're the ones that it falls on. There's not going to fall on someone else. You can't leave this undone. And I feel that did help me a lot in my life to learn that from my entire life. That's all I've known,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Work ethic is something to see demonstrated,
Yeah.
What about you, Dusty? You didn't answer.
Mine was different. I had a very visual, because back when my dad was coming up in business, you used to be able to work your way up a ladder. You could come into a business and work at the bottom and work your way up. And that's what he did. So he didn't go to college or anything like that. He started working in the truck bays for Hostess Cakes and Wonder Bread, cleaning the floors. And just basically he knew the business top to bottom, because by the time he was done, he was a VP of the company.
No kidding.
Yeah. But it was just grinding the way up. And back then you could do that because people would see, sure, new guy has got a degree or this or that, but he doesn't know this business from the bottom up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of that. And then what ended up happening was, as a kid, I played sports, played hockey, and I was very good at hockey, but my dad was just one of those people that I could score 5 goals in a game and miss one, and he would ask me about the one I missed. He was not at all. The 5 were expected. How did you miss that one? And a lot of people, my aunts and uncles and stuff, really had a hard time with that, because they almost thought it's damn near abuse. You know what I mean? But I never saw it that way. You realize you've kind of got someone you're trying to prove yourself to that you never will. Yeah. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But I think, and that could be, I think this is one of those situations where how you look at a situation decides who you are. Your perception is your reality.
Yeah.
Because I always looked at it really simple. Because of that, I have a level of, my bar for myself and what I consider acceptable is higher than anyone else is going to be of me. So success is easy. When I remember when Mutant sent me my contract of what I had to do for my paycheck, I laughed, because I was like, that's all you want? You're going to get a lot more than that, and that's, but I think that's kind of the thing with business too, is it all kind of feeds into life. So to me, it's really simple. If anybody ever had a higher expectation of me than I do, I would feel like, wow, where did I go wrong?
Right.
So yeah, I think that's, I don't even view it as a bad thing. I would do I'm fortunate that my personality is what it is, because that could have broken a different kid. But for me, it was simple, cool. And then every now and then what you end up happening is, which is funny. So when my career in hockey ended with injuries, I got into bodybuilding. My dad never liked it, just never, and he would come to the shows sometimes, whatever. So when he died, obviously I set up his funeral, and I don't know any of his friends at this point. We weren't really on speaking terms. I walk in, and all these guys are walking over. Oh, you must be Dusty. Heard all about you. Your bodybuilding career is going great. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And you just find out, and I'm sure a lot of us don't realize that, is he was proud the whole time. Just wanted to make sure I got the most. So now when I look at life and where things are, I'm like, thank God that you were that way, because that's why I'm this way. So yeah. For me, it's perception. I think a lot of people don't realize. So I'd much rather people I think people are too light on everyone now, especially their kids and stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that's good, but I know you're capable of more.
I remember you reminded me of something. I remember I did a Taekwondo tournament. It was the Alberta Winter Games. And I came home with a gold medal in forms and a silver medal in sparring. And I remember my dad goes, "Oh, so what happened with the silver medal?"
Right.
And I go, "Oh, well," I go, "Dad, I just think that," I go, "the other kid was just so much bigger than me. I couldn't get close to him." Because I remember the age category was like 12 to 15.
It's a weird age group. Yeah.
Or like
almost a man and a child.
Right.
And it was this, like, I was like 12 or 13. And there was like this 15-year-old kid. Like, I remember he was like the maximum age for the age group. And I was like barely in the age group.
He's shaving.
And he had like hair in his armpits. Yeah. And he was like 5'10", and I'm like 5'6", and I'm literally a boy.
Well, he drove himself there.
He's out back smoking.
Yeah.
He's got a pack in his t-shirt sleeve right out of a movie. So I remember, like, I just couldn't get close. Like, he was so much taller. I'd like get in there and he'd just like kick me in the chest, and I was like still 2 feet away from him, Right. So I remember I just lost on points, and I just told my dad, I think, he was just way bigger than me. Like, I think the age group, he was like, the oldest. And my dad goes, well, we'll let that. Okay. That's good enough for now. Like, he was like, okay.
He didn't say it was okay either.
Yeah.
And then I said, but I got a gold medal in forms. And he probably said something like, but you're not actually against anybody, right?
So playing with yourself, you're fine, but once you're actually
pretend
in combat,
fighting. So what you're saying is pretend fighting. You're really good at. You're really good at imagining you're in a fight.
That's fantastic.
Oh
my God.
So you can hold the guitar correctly, but can you play it?
Yeah, no, not at all. But it sure looks good with my black on black.
Like I can hold it perfectly. Yeah.
All right, I got another one that I think is solid. Then we'll give back some bodybuilding ones. What have you learned this year alone that you wish you would have learned 10 years ago?
Oh, damn. Scott might have to jump in if he can think of something.
I gave Scott this one earlier, so he should have a little head start.
You told me, but I was gathering the YouTube questions and hitting buttons, and I was like, okay, Dusty, that sounds good.
Sure. Just glad you're here on time for once.
I'll throw one out though. I would say it's been shown to me this year how valuable our health is, and it's something that we all know, right? Like, we all know how important it is, and if you get sick for a minute, then you recognize like how much it really sucks. But I've really seen just how valuable it is, being that I may be able to never get back physically to what I've been in the past. So there's a lot to like grapple with that when you're not ready for that. I might be able to, I'm not saying I can't, but there's some reality there. So I would say that if I could, I would have had, if I could have that insight, it would have my life would have spun just a little bit differently, probably, in how much I appreciated everything that I've had. I hate to say it, but I've probably taken health for granted at times.
Right. I think everybody does.
That's very, it's sometimes, on this show, my mind is like trying to find something, and then one of you guys will say their answer, and I'm like, oh, that's so much more reasonable than I was going than what I was like
we're gonna say.
I'm like totally thinking selfishly, and then Scott comes out with this like philosophical drop on health and the importance of health, and not taking it for granted. I'm like, well, everything I was thinking was just telling me to sound like an idiot now. But yeah, that's definitely true, man. We're getting older. Everyone's getting older. I'm, like I was saying to Dusty before, I don't know if it was on the show or if we were just talking, but, we're getting to the age, I'm getting to the age where like my heroes are dying.
Yeah.
Right. I can remember like when Sean Connery died, and you're like, holy shit, like that was a big movie star for me. I was like, damn, fuck, it gets everybody, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like it even got fucking Sean Connery. Okay, who's next? And then you start to think, fuck, I bet so-and-so is not far behind. and then another guy, and then you're thinking of all like your favorite, and then you start thinking of like your favorite, musicians. And obviously some people die early, unfortunately, but when they're still just like dying at like a reasonable age, and that age is like a lot closer to yours than it used to be.
Yeah.
Like, when you're in your 20s, and like a 75-year-old Oscar winner dies. You're like, oh yeah, he's old.
Yeah, you can't relate to that.
No shit, fucking old. That's what happens.
But then when you're almost, you're 46 and a 75-year-old Oscar winner dies, you're like, shit, that's less than 30 years away.
Yeah. You know what? Victoria helped me with it.
Perspective changes.
She gave me this analogy because this is something I've been talking a lot about this past year. And the way she said the way that you're seeing it, it's like you're on the road, you're driving, you see the mountain and it's in the distance, and you know that that's where you're headed. Only now, and you know the whole time you're on the road that eventually you're going to that mountain. Only at a certain age, now you're at a point where you're close enough that you can start to make out the trees. And I was like, holy shit, yep, that's me.
and also for the first few hours of the drive, the mountain doesn't seem to even get any bigger.
No, you got forever.
And that's your 20s.
Get there.
That's your 20s. Like the mountain's it's still just tiny.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden, like, late 30s, you're like, oh, I think I'm closer. It's like getting bigger now.
But I'm still far away. Yeah.
And you start later on, you start being able to read some of the signs. You're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. And then you're like, I need to get a convertible. I need to get, a new young wife. I need to.
All of a sudden, Scott orders that gun from earlier.
Yeah, got to get a staccato. Get away with young. Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
Don't hang out me and all. You'll order it by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's how I do things. So mine is actually pretty easy. Over the last year, what I've learned that I actually push on people now is that any person in your life is either a positive influence or a negative. No one's break even. And simply put, the moment you find out that someone's not positive, get rid of them. Like, quickly. I mean, it sounds crazy, but a lot of us want to save people, and just don't realize how much negative energy pulls. After I got sick, I very clearly saw the good people. I also saw the people who were making me better. And then I started to realize the ones that I was spending an asinine amount of effort on to try to bring them up to somewhere they didn't even want to come. And you can't do that. And it's funny, I saw a thing months ago, but it said, what's interesting is you can't bring a person that's down up if they don't want to come, but they can bring you down.
Right.
And even if that's you don't a fact. Go. Yeah. So that's one of those things I've really implemented. And I've actually had a few friends that I've pushed it on them, and they've actually had the breakthrough aha moments and like called me and been like, that situation you were telling me about, I see it now, you know? So that's something where, and the reason I say I would wish I learned is I spent a lot of time doing that. And once you have the clarity, you look back in hindsight and you'll see parts in your life where you stayed level. Maybe you didn't go down, but you stayed level. And then you look at who's around you and it becomes very clear. I even say that oftentimes with like breakups. You'll see two people that are kind of doing this. And then when they break up, you'll see one of them shoot up and one of them fall down. And you go, oh, well, that's why they were level. One was fighting for their life to bring them up. The other one was pulling down, and level was a win. You know? So I think that that's one of those things. Once you have it, it gets easy. You know, like I have no qualms about it because I kind of look at it like I don't fire people. They just ask me to leave through their actions. So pretty simple.
I'm letting you leave.
Pretty simple. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm gonna take a quick piss. I'm dying.
Intermission.
Editing.
Or not. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. See how I feel on the day we edit this.
Yeah, we'll see how his flow is. Also, how long does it take? We're going to find a lot about,
It was early.
What's going on with Ron's health?
This was early.
This isn't early piss. This is an hour and a half.
I'm concerned about his prostate right now.
It's definitely questionable. He's got bubbles in his urine. I said that because someone just asked me that.
Yeah.
This may be TMI, but is it normal to have a lot of bubbles in your urine? Absolutely not.
How does that work? Is that like high protein in your urine, something like that?
I mean, the simple answer for me is that's not right.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Because I am so, especially with bodybuilding, my first thought process is that goes to kidneys in my mind.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime urine is different, my brain says kidneys.
Yeah.
So you should look at it, I'm also amazed, Scott, is how few people understand the importance of fluids.
Oh man, it's easy to overlook is what it is, I think.
And it's the thing that does the most. I mean, like when I got sick the other week, literally I knew all I need to come back to human is for my body to hold fluids.
Dude, all that weight you lost, that was like the majority of it was fluid, was water,
I wasn't even worried about it. Like all I thought about is I will feel better if I can get a few liters of fluids in me.
Yeah.
And since obviously I can't swallow them, and it was like a light switch. I went there, they put 2 packs in me, came home, and I had to kind of brave it and start touching the water and see if it would come back up. It was fine.
Yeah.
And then you're good to go. And then what was really obvious but interesting in the moment was the fact that I didn't feel bad the next day. I felt bad the day after when my body was like, yeah, this is what happens when you don't have fluids or water for a full day, a day and a half ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like getting all that forward. It's literally half the time when somebody goes, I didn't feel great in the gym today. I'm like, probably dehydrated.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been, and in this time of year too, it's starting to get warmer out, that our fluid intake needs are going to change, especially if you're working like a real physical job and you're sweating at work, Yeah.
Fluids and minerals. I'm like, all my guys that work outside, I'm like, you're adding salt to the water, right?
Yeah.
We need this.
Ron, we just did a PSA. We did a PSA on water intake while you were gone.
All based on your bad prostate.
Perfectly fine. I just missed a liter.
This is how rumors start, right here.
Yeah.
No, these aren't. These aren't frequent. I was holding that for a while.
Do you have any questions? You want me to just keep going? I got lots. I can go all day here.
Yeah, fire another one.
Okay. How much winning did it take before bodybuilding started paying you back?
How much winning?
Yeah. That's and I'm using the word winning differently, but I want to see what you guys say.
Do you mean financially? Does it have to be? Do we have to define what paying me back means?
My assumption is he's meaning financially.
Well, I mean,
but I look at financially being if bodybuilding made you have more personal training clients that started paying you back.
Yeah,
if bodybuilding made your podcast something people saw, it started paying you back.
I guess in that sense, I mean, I got my first sponsor in like 1997. So I've gotten free supplements basically since 1997. So that's always been a nice little perk. And then I started training people in 1999 was my first client. And my first paycheck, like an actual check that I got paid from a company, was in 2011. So yeah, that's the timeline of that. So I guess if does that count?
Yeah, I think that answers the question pretty solid.
I mean, from 2000 to 2010, that whole decade, I had a lot of clients. Like I was always dieting people for shows and training people and doing personal training sessions, and I was always training people. So I was always making money from bodybuilding during that 10-year period. And then I got on with Mutant. So then the benefits became like the travel and the getting paid and, having a bunch of opportunity and getting videos shot for you and like all that stuff came. So yeah, it's been pretty cool.
Right. Agreed. What's your take on the question, Scott, and how would you pertain it to the payments you're getting now?
Well, I would say I remember Dave Palumbo saying years ago, like 2005-ish or so, saying that if you love what you're doing, to keep doing it, and that it will eventually pay off, that you'll eventually be able to make money. And so at the time, what I could do was share what I knew. Like, I didn't know everything, but I could share the things I did know online in a forum. And so I started a thread, and I started taking questions, and then that evolved, and I was approached by a supplement company that wanted to pay me to do a question thread on their website, which was kind of really unique at the time. He was a real forward-thinking supplement company owner. And so people, that grew. And then I was making a check every month for that. Awesome. And it was like, oh, wow. But it took like 2 years of doing this, like 2 years of like proving myself and building this thread up, and to the point where I had so many views. And it got to the point where it was, it was like a part-time job, just managing that thread, you know? Yeah. And I tried to, I guess, step outside of the box, because like people weren't posting pictures on the message boards. I know, Dusty, you did. You posted but like you weren't seeing a lot of pictures. People were scared to show their identities, but I was like, okay, I'm going to do a prep. And then I made a thread about that. And it was like, I just did a document of my prep of what my coach had me doing. Everybody does that now. But at the time it was different. But it was through doing that and not knowing where it was going to go. Then eventually I got a paycheck out of it. And that was pretty cool. And I felt really good about it. I was like, wow, like I'm actually making money doing bodybuilding. I've got this paycheck in front of me, you know?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
For sure. I think that's a great, and I'm going to kind of derail it like you had already kind of mentioned, Ron, it's a very trite thing going around right now that's a guy did an interview and he talked about the man who loves to walk will get further than the guy who's walking towards a destination. That's how I look at my bodybuilding. I didn't get into it and say, I'm going to do X. I love bodybuilding, so I was bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And then I loved talking to people online about bodybuilding, so I started sharing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then someone put a camera in front of me and was like, show people what you do. So I did that, but the way I do things. So I was having fun, and it never really had a plan of where it was going to go. And then as it evolved, then I had a path that I could actively pursue. And then it became, okay, now how do I turn this into something? I think a lot of guys right now, not just in making money off of bodybuilding, but doing bodybuilding, they'll come to me on day one within reason and be like, how long is this going to take? And I'm like, why does it matter? Like, that part I don't get. And I'm not picking on this person's question, but just because I'm like, I never asked myself, how long is it going to take to get huge? I said, I'm going to get fucking huge. And I just started working towards it. And I put my head down and I enjoyed doing it every day. And I never really thought, like, I wonder how long this is going to take, or how much money am I going to make, or what should I be doing instead? I just loved doing it. And it kind of evolved. So to answer the question more philosophically, bodybuilding paid me back immediately, because it gave me somewhere to put that focus, because I had quit hockey and I needed a place to put the competitive energy. It went into bodybuilding. I also, unlike hockey, I wasn't very good at it in the beginning. So it took more effort to get something out of it, which was also fun. And I think that, the tie into the big story here is, I tell all my clients that are really trying to go somewhere, bodybuilding is going to do one of two things for you. It's going to kill everything you touch, and it's going to take away from your life, or you're going to use what you learned from bodybuilding and your entire life will be better.
Hell
You'll
yeah.
be better at working. You'll be better at business. You'll be better with your family, all of those things, because you understand that just like bodybuilding, you get out what you put in. That's everything in life. But I think a lot of people, they pick and choose which side they end up on that. So bodybuilding, if they put everything into bodybuilding and they forget that they have those other things, then they're the ones that you see later down the line going, bodybuilding ruined my life. I'm like, no, you ruined your life.
Yeah.
You weren't focused. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing I want to add to that, for some reason, I just feel like it's relevant, is, for those everyone already knows, Mutant signed Jamie the Giant. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And So we're real happy about that. And I had a few bodybuilders ask me, they're like, so what do you guys look for? You know, like when you were signed Jamie, what were some of the things, like obviously he's big, fits the brand, but what else do you guys look for? And I said, well, one of the important things is that you don't want to sign someone who's going to just live off their contract.
Yeah.
Like they have to have something else going on.
Huh.
They have to have like they have to almost not need the contract. You know what I mean? Like, because that shows that there's so much more going on. They've got everything in order. You know, no one wants, you know, we all know at this stage that, you know, some guys get signed to a contract and they just stay home all day and they just spend the money and live off of it. And they don't have their own shit going on at all. And that there's no other money coming in. And, you know, it's just funny that just doesn't seem to work out ever.
Shocking.
You know? Yeah. You know, so kind of a lot of companies, like, you know, one of the things you want to demonstrate to them is that you're not ignoring all those other things in your life.
That's interesting.
Right. You know?
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, just think we're all bodybuilders. We all know those guys that ignore everything in their life except their bodybuilding. So
I hadn't thought of that. I wouldn't have thought of that as being that would be an attribute of somebody you'd want to hire on as an athlete, but it makes total sense hearing you say it.
Well, think about how that represents your brand. I mean, you know, so Jamie, because it was funny, but Ron ran into Jamie at the Arnold at Meet the Athletes. Just told him, hey, come back. He was there by himself. Said, yeah, come back to the hotel. We'll grab a bite or whatever. I knew who Jamie was and didn't know him at all. By the time we finished that meal, I looked at Ron and I'm like, so we're bringing him on, right? Because I just knew. I was like, we hadn't even been anywhere. It was a fit. And I knew about his gym. I knew about his family.
Yeah.
I knew he had his shit together. I saw him interact with a few people who walked up and I'm like, this is a mutant. It has to be. And I mean, Ron already, he just smiled because I knew the wheels were already spinning. He's like, I've already mentioned something. I was like, of course you have.
That's cool.
You know, so it was a very easy fit, but I immediately connected with him on a lot of levels because, to be honest with you, I don't really care if you have a genetic predisposition for being a great bodybuilder, you know, because how does that help the fans that are following? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I think that's where social media has taken this. It's great to watch, you know, you deadlift 800 pounds. And it is cool. But when I deadlifted the second time, you've already seen it. The third time, you don't really care. But if what I'm doing can somehow impact your life and your success, now you got somebody you want to hold on to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because that's why we have Mutant Nation, they're a part of it, is kind of the delivery. And I believe that, like, because people will reach out. I had a guy just barely, I meant to send it to you guys. He sent me a DM and he said, I just did my first show. You guys helped me so much. I lost 120 pounds over the last few years following along and just wanted to thank you for helping me with this show. I was like, wow.
That's cool.
I've never spoken to you, but apparently I've spoken to you quite a bit.
That's really cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
that's how it seems
kind of
to
stuff
work.
is fun. All right, let's see here. I didn't stay focused on finding my next one. Sorry.
That's the challenge, Dusty. You're seeing now. It's good.
That's
good
why
work
this
you're
is
doing
your
here.
job.
It's good. You're doing good work here, though. It's very good.
Okay, here's a good one actually, Ron, that I would like your spin on because I've experienced this a little bit. Are large purchasing or financing or taxes difficult or done differently for signed bodybuilders?
Okay, so what's that?
So the question is, are large purchases or financing or taxes difficult or done differently for signed bodybuilders? I'm going to give you my spin just because I had read this already, so I can kind of point out some of the things. Because I don't own so my business is the training. Right. And then obviously the sponsorships, things like that. Even though I have years of proof of income and very, very good credit, when I want to borrow a very large amount of money, the first thing they say is they need to see where my money comes from. And for example, some banks don't love PayPal and Venmo.
Okay.
They view it almost as if I'm transferring money from myself to myself.
Oh.
Even though it's a very large amount of money and it's consistent for years.
Yeah.
And it's paid on my taxes. They literally look in their head, which is crazy to me. They're like, wow, but you don't have a job. And a job is safe. And I'm like, according to who?
Yeah.
A job is safe. I've been doing this for 15 years. So I have had to pay more money down on big purchases because of that in the past.
Right.
So like somebody could get away with buying a house on like 5% down. I'm usually putting 15, 20% down to get the same, to get the same interest rates that I would want to get, because they just don't trust it, even though it's years, like I said. So that's one factor that's different.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. So what would be, you have anything like that, Ron?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I run a lot of stuff through my corporation, right? Mm-hmm. So, then some banks look and they're like, oh, well, here's your income. And you're like, yeah, but I also own this corporation and here's the corporation's income.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're like, oh, yeah, but that's not you. And you're like, yeah, but I own it. And they're like, yeah, but it has to be on your, like, you know what I mean? How they like, they like that. So my accountant, he helps me because, I've got some plans for this year, like we've talked about with property and stuff. So there's some extra hoops you have to jump through and a bit of bullshit and, but I mean, what do you do? Like, I try to just remember Gary V whenever something comes up and it's like something that really pisses me off. I just try to remember Gary V. He's like, yeah, well, you can complain and bitch about the new rules, whatever they are. Like he's just talking about generally in business, they'll change a rule, right? You can bitch and complain about the new rules, or you can be the guy who immediately adapts and just continues to make money under the new rules while the other guy's bitching and complaining. You know what I mean? So, because he says that all the time. I remember one of my favorite clips was a guy said to Gary Vee, he's like, I have an idea for an app, but it's illegal in my state. It would be perfectly legal here and here and here. And Gary's like, then fucking move.
Yeah, because it's that simple.
The guy's like, oh, I never thought of that. And he's like, just fucking move. He's like, whoa, I never thought of moving. He's like, what are you talking to me for?
Well, those are the things too. I mean, like you said, Ron, is you do, and that's why you have a tax professional or a financial guy.
Yeah, you got to have an accountant.
On the flip, they, for example, yes, your business has a lot of your money, so you don't, on paper, Ron Partlow makes significantly less than he has, but on the flip, my business owns my truck, I don't. So that payment doesn't affect my income. You know what I mean? And that's something like when I bought the house last week, that was something like, oh, good. I can see that you own this car, but not that car. I'm like, well, okay, yes. you know? So, but yeah, it's all simple. I guess the big thing that I look at with those questions is, when you create enough income, none of that will matter. Well, my job gives me health care. I'm like, well, just make more money and buy your own health care. Who cares?
Right.
Those are things they trick you into piss poor paying jobs for.
Yeah. That was a scary one for me.
I care about $400 a month.
That was a scary one for me because I had bought into that, and my parents kind of instilled that into me. Like, well, you need a good job. You need a job with health care. That you like, almost making me feel like you can't manage that on your own. And now I am managing it on my own, and it's not fun. Like, but you know what?
Right.
It's doable, and that's a freedom, because I do think so. At least here, Ron, like in our country, the way they have it set up, man, it's a fear that like you're not going to have good health care if you don't work for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I read a really good. Do you know the guy, the Muscle? He's a friend of Rob Bailey's. He's got his own supplement company. He did a Q&A the other day, and somebody said to him, and they said, so I have a job. They pay me $200,000 a year, and I'm thinking about leaving, but I don't know if I should. And his response was the greatest thing I ever read. He goes, if they'll pay you $200,000 to work for them, how much money do you think you're making them? Leave.
Huh.
I remember reading that. It was like the most direct and obvious thing I had ever read. I literally messaged him. I'm like, that's the best answer I've ever read. Because if they'll pay you $200,000, you're making them God knows what.
Yeah.
So, right. You're at least making them $1 million.
Yeah, so go make 400 for yourself for $1 million, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it was a really cool
you might be able to work
answer.
you might technically be able to work half as hard and make twice as much because you're not giving it all to them.
So yeah, it was a good answer for sure. Quick one, Ron. Are there Canadian TRT clinics?
Not the way you guys have them, but
Right.
there's like hormone doctors. There's like doctors that do the hormone clinic thing, and you go there and they'll, you do the blood tests and they help you optimize everything. You know, there are, but but it's not like it's not like you guys have like commercials and like fucking signs up on the highway and fucking, you know what I mean?
It is a different thing.
In Winstrol, you get some Winstrol from your TRT doctor.
Yeah, no, we don't have that.
Very, very valid. All right, what time? How much time do we got left?
I got a funny little story.
Shoot.
Okay, yeah.
So my brother turned 60, and he looks like 48, right? So he's like super fit. He's been a road cyclist. He does like 100K on a Saturday morning with the other guys doing the Peloton.
Yeah,
riding on the highway. He's been a road cyclist his whole life. It's like his favorite sport. So he's in amazing shape. He can do like I said, he can do 100K no problem. So just a cardio machine. And I've been bugging him for about 10 years, like, you're gonna need some of that testosterone soon. Like I'm always bugging him. And then the other day he calls me and he goes, "Guess what?" And I go, "You're on test." And he goes, "No." He goes, "I started working out." And I was like, "Oh," because he's never been a weightlifter, right?
Right.
And he goes, "I was worried my upper body was starting to shrink on me. My arms were getting skinny, but I still got my legs because I still ride every day, but like." My arms are getting skinny. And I was like, "Oh, I think you need 2 IUs of GH and 100 megs of test and theta a week." and I love naming drugs because I know the names of the drugs and he doesn't.
Right.
He's an infectious disease guy. So like I'll name I'll be like, get a kid of Serostem. And he's like, "What's Serostem?" And I'm like, "Ha, you don't even know."
Like, doctor, that bitch.
yeah, but he's funny. But anyways, the point is that he started working out. So I was like super happy. I'm like, "Oh, I got to hear about this." And he's such a farmer too. We're both farmers because like he's got tons of money. Like he's a doctor. He's a doctor. He makes tons of money. And he goes, "Yeah, I joined a personal trainer studio. Man, it's expensive."
You immediately laugh because you're like,
"Oh my God, I'm sure you could afford it." And then he goes, "Yeah, I've really seen changes already. Like I've got more muscle in my chest." And he's like going on about how it is. And I go, "Oh yeah." And then he goes, "Yeah, and it only took about 3 visits before your name came up."
You're kidding me.
He said his trainer said something to him about like, just casual banter about how, well, I was a big fan of Arnold when I was a kid and I started lifting weights. And he's training at one of those like functional studios where nobody's a bodybuilder, right?
Yeah.
They're all doing like, it's bodybuilding would be looked down upon probably as like a rather prehistoric way to lift weights, right? Right. So, but the guy goes, "Yeah, I was into Arnold," and my brother just casually goes, "Oh yeah, I got a picture of my brother on my phone actually shaking Arnold's hand on stage at some contest."
Right.
And he shows him the picture. And the guy goes, "Wow." And then he calls one of the other trainers over because this other trainer is apparently like more of a bodybuilding fan. Mm-hmm. He calls him over. He goes, "Hey, look at this guy's brother." And he looks and he goes, "Oh, that's Ron Partlow."
Yes.
And my brother was like, "Oh, you know who my brother is?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then he starts, it was just funny. My brother laughed. He's like, "I can't, as soon as I'm in a gym."
Yep.
First gym I go to in my whole life.
It literally his entire life.
His entire life. First time I go to join a gym my entire life. People at the gym already know who you are. So it was pretty funny.
That's amazing.
That's cool.
So it gave me a good laugh that he couldn't escape. He couldn't escape. My bubble overlaps with his somehow. Yeah. Just the fact that I have a bubble that overlaps his world makes me super happy.
Especially what his world is.
Yeah. I get to invade his space a little bit is how I look at it.
That's fantastic.
Oh, okay. Well, is that good it, guys?
Stuff. I think we're set.
It looks like we have a guest booked for next week.
Cool.
So I'll message you guys about that. And I'm excited.
Absolutely.
I like to have some guests on. So we're going to do a double show next week and have a guest.
All right. Cool. Sounds good.
Okay. Remember, everybody, like, share, subscribe.
Comment and ring the bell. I had to do both.
Yeah, comment. Comment with questions. There's that.
Yeah.
Comment and ring the bell. There you go. You got a double duty at the end there. Thanks, guys. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.